Hello everybody, this is your bio sir, and as our show must go on battling with this coronavirus, we are here with our topic life processes and the subtopic nutrition. So if you remember in our previous class we had discussed about modes of nutrition, the two modes of nutrition, autotrophic and the heterotrophic. We had already started with the autotrophic mode of nutrition, where organisms prepare their own food, maybe using chemicals or maybe using sunlight. And those who use sunlight for obtaining their food, we call them as photoautotrophs. And this process of photosynthesis, we are going to learn in detail in today's class. Definition and equation of photosynthesis already we had discussed in our previous class, and I hope you all remember that equation. 6CO2 plus 12H2O in presence of sunlight and chlorophyll pigments. There is synthesis of glucose, that is C6H12O6 plus 6H2O and 6O2 is released into atmosphere. Now how this entire phenomenon of photosynthesis occurs, that we are going to learn in today's session. So the whole phenomenon of photosynthesis occurs in one of the important parts of the plants or organelles of the plants, which we call as chloroplasts, one of the types of the plastids. Now the detailed structure of this chloroplast you have already discussed in your 9th standard. So you did not learn this structure in detail. You should know two main parts of the same in order to study the phenomenon of photosynthesis. And those two main parts are grana, plural number, and a granum, singular number, and stroma. So these are the two main parts of this chloroplast which are involved in the process of photosynthesis. Now when you talk about this granum, we call it as a site of light reaction, the first step involved in the photosynthesis. When you talk about stroma, it is a site of dark reaction. So these are the two main steps, these are the two main processes which are involved in photosynthesis. Why the light reaction is called as a light reaction? Because it is dependent on light. Why the dark reaction is called as a dark reaction? Because it is independent of light. If you remember, this is your short answer question, that what are the three main steps involved in photosynthesis? We had already discussed these three steps involved. I repeat in this class again. First step is absorption of light or trapping of light by the grana. Second step involved is conversion of this light energy into chemical energy, and chemical energy is nothing but ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. And third step involved in the photosynthesis is reduction of this carbon dioxide into sugar or carbohydrates. Now how this process occurs is, we have a brief view or a diagrammatic representation of the same in order to understand the concept. So first step is that trapping of the light, and the ultimate source of the light for photosynthesis is sunlight. Now this sunlight is trapped by granum, and here inside this granum or inside this grana there is oxidation or a breakdown of this water, and then there is release of molecular oxygen. This process is sometimes called as a photolysis of water. Now photolysis of water means breakdown of water in presence of light, and it was explained by one great scientist who was Robert Hill, and therefore We can also call this process of breakdown of water as a Hill's reaction. Now, as a result of this Hill's reaction or this light reaction or photochemical reaction, there is synthesis of two energies, and those two chemical energies are called as NADPH and ATP. When you go to your 11th standard, you will have detailed explanation about these two assimilatory powers. We can also call them as the assimilatory powers. And this NADP stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. This can come to expand or write full form of NADP in your examination. The full form is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. And another chemical energy is in the form of ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. So these are the two end products of this light reaction: synthesis of NADPH and synthesis of ATP. Now these two energies are used during dark reaction inside stroma. Now, why it is used, how it is used is obviously for reduction of this carbon dioxide into carbohydrates, that is sugar in the beginning, which is later on converted into a complex form which we call as starch. So again, as a result of this, there is synthesis of glucose and ATP is converted into ADP, and NADPH is converted into NADP, which is reused by this granum, and this repeats. So these are the two main processes which occur during photosynthesis. We call it as light reaction and dark reaction, or photochemical reaction and biochemical reaction. I hope you all have understood the concept. Yes, friends, so that was all about autotrophic mode of nutrition. And now it's a time to learn heterotrophic mode of nutrition. So when it comes to heterotrophic mode of nutrition, we all know the meaning, right? The nutrition in which organisms do not prepare their own food, they're dependent on others. Now this heterotrophic mode of nutrition involves few more types, like saprophytic mode of nutrition. Already we have discussed in our previous class. Saprophytic mode of nutrition means where organisms depends upon dead and decay material. They release some enzymes to digest that food outside the body. For example, fungi, mushroom, bacteria, etc. Other than saprophytic mode of nutrition, we have already studied about parasitic mode of nutrition, where organisms depend on hosts to obtain their food. So they may live outside the body, they may live inside the body. So those who live outside the body, we call them as ectoparasites. For example, mosquito, bed bugs, etc. And those parasites who live inside the body of the host, we call them as endoparasites. For example, plasmodium, already we have discussed, or tapeworm, roundworm. So those are the examples of parasites. Now the third and the important mode of a nutrition we are going to learn in detail now is about Holozoic mode of nutrition. Now when we say Holozoic mode of nutrition, it means feeding upon complex food. Holozoic mode of nutrition is what? Feeding upon complex food. Now this kind of nutrition is found in us, obviously, but not only we. It is shown by amoeba, it is shown by paramecium and such other organisms. So whatever the organism is, it involves 5 main steps. Remember that, and these steps are always in the same sequence or in same order. Like step number 1 is ingestion. Step number 2 is digestion. Step number 3 is absorption. Step number 4 is assimilation. And step number 5 is egestion. So always these 5 steps are in the same sequence or in the same order. Now what does it mean? So let's begin with the first step, ingestion. So ingestion is nothing but the process of taking food in mouth or the process of taking food in body, because not necessarily that all organisms will have mouth. Because when you talk about amoeba is small microscopic organism that lives in the water, feeds on small plants or small microscopic organisms. So that is the food of amoeba. So it does not have mouth. It has special body part which we call as pseudopodia. So it has false feet. So it extends those false feet and forms one cavity, and this cavity we call later on as a food vacuole. So this process of taking food inside the body we call as a ingestion. And in amoeba, this process can also be called as a phagocytosis. Swallowing food or engulfing food is called as phagocytosis. Now once that food enters in the body of amoeba, the next step or the second step is digestion. Now what is this digestion? So digestion is nothing but breakdown of a complex food into simple food by the action of enzymes. I repeat, digestion is nothing but breakdown of complex food into simple food by the action of enzymes. Now, this food vacuole is formed, it has already enzymes present inside. So these enzymes will break the complex food into simple food. So when you say complex food, for example, you remember carbohydrates are the complex food, and the simple food of the carbohydrates is glucose, simple sugars. When it comes to complex food in the form of a fats, the simple food is in the form of a fatty acids or glycerol. When we talk about the complex food in the form of proteins, the simple form or a simple food of the proteins is in the form of amino acids. So exactly here same thing happens. Complex food is converted into simple food by the action of enzymes, and we call it as digestion. Now once the food is broken down, third step begins, and that third step is called as absorption. Now what is this absorption? So absorption is nothing but the digested food is now transferred to the rest part of the body from this food vacuole. So transfer of the digested food from that digested part to the rest part of the body. When it comes to us, this digested food is digested in the stomach, in small intestine, and then it is transferred into the blood. So that will be the process called as absorption. Now after absorption, step number 4 we call as assimilation. Now what is the meaning of the word assimilation? So assimilation is nothing but utilization of food to generate energy, that is ATP, and utilization of the same food for growth. So assimilation is utilization of food by organism to generate energy. And yeah, there was little interruption. Children, kindly bear with me. Now let's continue. So I hope you understood the meaning of the word assimilation. And now comes the last step of this Holozoic nutrition. We call it as egestion. So what is the meaning of the word egestion? Egestion is nothing but the process of removal of undigested food from the body. I repeat, the process of removal of undigested food from the body is called as egestion. Now when it comes to us, that undigested food is nothing but feces, fecal matter. And here in case amoeba, the undigested food is removed now by the same food vacuole, so it travels towards the border and it ruptures, and the process can also be called as exoosmosis, or can also be called as that egestion. And this is what the undigested food is eliminated, or it is removed out of the body. And these are the 5 steps which are involved in Holozoic mode of nutrition. So always remember the sequence of this nutrition: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. So after this same nutrition or a same process we are going to learn, that is in our case the human beings. So that was all about nutrition in amoeba. I hope everybody has understood.